today I am sitting at my table looking outside at these beautiful leaves. It's like some real hikey Pacific Northwest vibes here the last couple of days, which I could get used to, especially this time of year. Even yesterday was like so cold. I mean, like cold. Like I was really convinced that it was going to start snowing at some point. And apparently up north it did a little bit, but what a fall it's been. And if you are like from Denver or live over here or have lived here, you know that we kind of get screwed out of fall. Like there really is not a fall here. I mean, and if there is, it's like a hot ass second for seriously, like a week or two. But it has not snowed yet this year. And it is so beautiful in the city. I mean, this is the most beautiful fall that I can remember seeing in the city. I mean, as an adult, maybe ever. I mean, it is wild. Hello, and thank you to climate change. But seriously, like on a serious note, I'm over here giving gratitude for like how beautiful this fall is. Normally it's like by now we have already had like a blizzard or two, or it is consistently like in the 80s. But like once it cooled down, it really cooled down, and it's been real beautiful. And I am like just taking a beat to like have a little gratitude for being able to like experience this fall. Like I remember this kind of stuff living in Seattle. I remember this kind of stuff living in Minnesota, and I feel like we get gypped. So that's my gratitude for the day is these leaves right here outside of my window. And if you're like, Ava, I don't listen to this shit for a weather update, just let me have this. Okay. Just let me have it. It is. It's like beautiful out here. And it's like so rainy. Okay. Anyways, I'm moving on. Okay. Actually, what I was doing before I was recording is getting like pretty jazzed for my bakery, Buttermoon, like for the holiday stuff that I want to turn. I'm excited. If you listened to last week's episode, I am officially done with market season, which was so crazy and so good and so fulfilling and kept me like hella connected to my community. And so I'm already kind of missing that and trying to think of new and like kind of creative ways to make sure I'm still, like keeping in touch with all of my market folks and, seeing how I can be of service to them and support their small business. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm kind of bummed, but I'm also like really excited for this like next chapter, this next, handful of months before like market season returns. And so anywho, if you follow Buttermoon, stay tuned because I want to do those cookies that y'all like. Those will be back. There's been talk of coffee cakes. There's been talk of like little tiny loaves, mini loaves of stuff. So anyways, I love cooking and baking this time of year anyways. So the fact that I own a bakery and get to kind of do a little bit of tinkering and like recipe and development, I don't have to be up at 2 o'clock in the mornings, like 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays anymore, which is like a byproduct of not being at market, and which is weird, but also, man, I am so grateful for that. And that will like allow me, to like get in there and to think of like some new things to make, but not even necessarily just for work. I love doing like project type cooking, when I can, and I used to do it a lot this time of year, and I can't as a single mom now. That's not necessarily something that my schedule allows, which is okay, and it's something that I miss, but I'm like really making it, and even this week, I'm like really making it a point to set aside time to do some of that stuff because I know how much joy it brings me. And, you know, my kids are young, right? Like Scarlett's 5, Maddox is 15 months. And Scarlett, you know, I mean, she is like a great eater, always has been, loves when I make her specific things. But like, you know, she doesn't understand the idea. Like this week, I made like sauce from scratch and I made meatballs and blah. And I keep reminding myself, right, that like she's going to remember this kind of stuff someday. This is not something, you know, she's not like, oh my God, my mom just made homemade sauce. Like she doesn't give a shit about that kind of stuff right now. And I don't expect her to. In fact, I make her lunch, right? Like every day, like the days that I have her, I send her, she's in kindergarten, and I send her with her, you know, unicorn bento box inside of her JoJo Siwa lunch box, okay, every day. And she thinks that it's so fucking lame all the time. She's like, Mom, I just want to eat lunch at school. They got to eat macaroni and cheese today. And I'm like, no, bud, here's this lunch that I carefully packed for you. And she doesn't care, but I do. And so I'm going to keep sending her damn lunch. And again, like someday, my hope is that she's like, dang, my mom really did pack me my lunch every day. I love her for that. Or maybe she's like, I wish my mom really would have fucked off and like let me eat macaroni and cheese with my classmates. That was so lame. Sorry, bud. If you're listening to this someday when you care about this sort of thing, I hope you know that I love you. Anyways, this kind of leads into one of the first questions that I read for this week. And we'll get started with this. But Lindsay says, hi, Ava. Instead of feeling inspired to be in the kitchen, I feel burned out and bored. How do you reconnect with cooking? I love this. So when I first moved out of my ex's house and into my home, I did kind of what I have been doing for a while and really put a lot of emphasis, you know, on trying to do this thing of like playing both roles, right? So like I had to hustle really hard when I moved out, you know, needed to bring in an income. Then I had the babies 70% of the time, but I was still, I mean, like cooking, number one, way too much food, way too involved meals. But that was like a way for me to kind of like heal and grieve and like move through some of my stuff. And also for several years, that's just kind of what I had been doing, right? Like as a stay-at-home parent. And so I held on to that, and then I held on to it, and then I continued to hold on to it, and I continued to like not allow myself a beat or, you know, to come up for air and to breathe. And I burned myself out so fucking bad in the kitchen that, I mean, honestly, it was a blessing, right? Like I needed to get to that point where I was like, what are you doing? And why are you doing this to yourself? You know what I'm saying? But I needed to do it. I needed to get there. But then it took like, there was like a 6-week period where I was like not trying to be like in my kitchen. You know what I mean? Like I had to really kind of set shit down for a second. And so in order to, I mean, let's rewind. I don't know your specific situation. I'm guessing it's just kind of like a pretty typical, like, I'm just kind of over it, right? Some people get really jazzed and excited this time of year to like cook and bake. I'm one of those people. And sometimes, and maybe this is what you're feeling like, it's overwhelming or who knows, right? But some of my favorite things to do, and this is actually what I did earlier this year when I was like, what the fuck? You love cooking. Like, stop this. And just because you are not going to make like a 3-course meal doesn't mean that you don't have to cook at all. If you've been following along at all, I have like the capacity to be very all or nothing sometimes, which is really dumb. And it doesn't really serve me, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to do that to myself sometimes. Okay. Anyways, I love going to parts of town that I don't normally shop in, to either like local, like small grocery stores, right? And I mean, these might be places that are like semi-familiar or that I've stepped into, but they're not my norm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not Safeway, okay? It's not like I'm not driving up the road to King Soopers. Like, I'm being a little bit more intentional with, taking a drive, turning on some tunes, going to a store that I don't normally go to. That's not part of like my weekly routine. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're like, that's not available to me, I don't know where you live, but I mean, even if you, fuck it, drive to the suburbs, or if you live in the suburbs, drive to the city, right? And like go to a different store, go somewhere. Sometimes I really love going to H Mart or the Pacific Ocean Market. I mean, just go somewhere that you don't normally go to kind of like shake yourself up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And I love doing that with specifically places that I know that have like a really good, solid produce selection, because I don't know about y'all, but a wide variety of produce really does something to me. And if I want to get like re-inspired, that really is like one of my most favorite things to do, is to just like get back in a grocery store, head to the produce aisle first, and just like hang out there for some time. Sometimes I also feel like, maybe we're feeling like disconnected or uninspired, and maybe it really is generally in the kitchen, and maybe it's just kind of like a funk in general. And so honestly, if I'm in a funk in general, also because I love cooking and baking, it's not entirely uncommon for me to do this in general, right? Like if I feel like I just need to kind of shake shit up for a second and like get out of like my normal kind of like mundane, I mean, my life very much keeps me on my toes, right? Like there's not a whole lot of, I don't know, it's not necessarily boring. It can look a little bit like a grind, but I feel like start there, right? Like go to a spot that you don't normally go to. And just also, if you're like, lady, I don't cook that much. Like I'm going to go to the produce section and get like freaked out and, look at some new recipes, or think about some recipes that you love that are like, I don't know, are produce forward, so like you at least are not going in blind and being like, what the fuck am I going to make? You know what I mean? Like, also, I don't want you going to the store and being like, wow, this is like the opposite of helpful. And now I feel like freaked out. And now I like especially don't know where to start. Anyways, start there. Number one. Number two, again, I don't know necessarily like how familiar you are with cooking and being in the kitchen, but sometimes it can be really nice to like go back to your roots, go back, like dumb it down, keep it simple, like make something that is like really comforting to you, that you love, that you know that you love, that is like pretty foolproof, that you feel really confident in, because sometimes that's all you need too, right? Is like and you're like, damn, I still got it. You know what I'm saying? So that can be really helpful. Honestly, it was ironic I wasn't feeling burnt out. I was actually kind of feeling like a little bit like the opposite, right? Like I was like really craving with the cool weather and whatnot. And it was Halloween, and I like really just wanted to like be in my kitchen, and like the babies were here. But I mean, that's why I made red sauce, right? Is it's like something that I can be like on autopilot, but that I find like really comforting, that I know that my kids like. And yeah. And which was so cool, because it was like, as soon as I started doing that, like as soon as I started and I was like, fuck yes. Like, yeah, like I got excited and like wanted to make a list of like other stuff that I wanted to make like later this week and next week. And so just get in the kitchen and make something that you know that you love. Okay. And then the other thing that I do, so I'm a reader because I am a writer, and also just because I really love reading. And I have like hella food memoirs, right? Like I have, so many, and several of them I have read several times, but that's also, and I'm not even sit down, just, call into work and read an entire ass book about food in hopes that it's going to re-inspire you. But like, even if you are a reader, and even if maybe you're not, or maybe you don't own any, like check one out and like read a couple of chapters. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, getting placed in like these vignettes or like these scenes where it sort of like transports you to another time or another world, right? Like that can be really inspiring too. And I do that sometimes for sure. I will pull Garlic and Sapphires by Ruth Reichel. That's one of my favorite books. Several of her books are some of my favorites that are geared specifically towards food. 32 Yolks by Eric Ripert. That's a really good one. Even just to read like a couple of chapters. Toast by Nigel Slater for sure. And a lot of those essays are hilarious as fuck. And so, yeah, I'm like, you can do something like that, or even like finding some short, like some short stories and stuff like that online. Or even podcasts. I know one. Oh, I'm laughing at my jokes. And then the other thing that I'm going to recommend is like to make something new, right? Like make something like, so on the opposite end of like going back to your roots and keeping it simple and sticking with what you know, make something different that you like have never made before. Maybe it intimidates you. Maybe it's just been like earmarked. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Fold the paper over. I'm a monster and I do that in some of my books still. Don't say a word to me. But yeah, like pull, like do something that you're like, okay, I've been wanting to make this forever. I'm finally going to make this. Okay. So to summarize, go somewhere new, go to a different grocery store, go to a different part of town, go for a different drive, shake your routine up, read about food. That's one of my most favorite things to do. Go back to your roots, make something that you know that you love, make something that you know that you're good at, and or don't. or don't, and make something completely new that like you've been wanting to try. I hope that's helpful. And I also hope that you report back. And I also want to know if you're like, you are crazy town and I'm not doing any of that. Get away from me. Don't tell me that. Please don't tell me that. Okay. I got a DM actually last week that said, I was thinking about some of we had like a brief conversation, but basically they said, I was thinking about some of the meals that, holiday meals specifically that I've had over the years, good and bad, right? Whether it was like good and bad food or good and bad experiences or whatever the case may be. And we just kind of shared like some of our, most memorable holiday meals. And this time of year specific, my ex and I took Scarlett to Santa Fe and Angel Fire, New Mexico, a couple years ago, and it was like Blizzard Town, USA. It was madness. I mean, it was crazy cold. It was an absolute blizzard. Like we had to fully shut down, cancel like half of the shit that we were going to do. We made it there just in the nick of time. Luckily, like I love cooking. I love cooking for the holidays. And so we were stocked, right? And so that's really what I did. I was very freshly pregnant with Maddox and like 8 weeks. And yeah, I mean, like I felt like shit, but I like turned out a bunch of just like crudité with like a different dips, and I made cinnamon rolls, and we did like a surf and turf situation. I did like this crazy lemony pasta with like these caramelized lemon that I did not actually love. In my head, we were going places with it, like the lemons, I don't know. Anyways, that was wild just because I had like high hopes for all of these things that I wanted to do, right? Like I really wanted to go hiking. I really wanted to we actually did end up driving to Taos. It was fucked. It was so weird. Like the weather was just like out of control. And then even the drive home. So that was memorable for sure, for lots of different reasons. I have hard segue. I have like a lot of holiday meal memories that are not super great. Which is why I'm actually, I don't know. It makes me love the idea of like sharing meals and holidays as an adult with other people, like, you know, friends, family, people that I love. It makes me love it that much more because like it's not like they were all bad, but as one does with human experience, I mean, it's definitely easier for like some of the traumatic ones to stand out, right? But honestly, that was like the most memorable one that I can think of in recent years. And that's kind of what I told them too. I mean, other than that, you know, having kids during the holidays is precious. I mean, like it, you know, like that's the kind of stuff, even though Scarlett's so young, right? And this is like really the first year that Maddox will be kind of like, cause he was born last year. Hello. You know, like opening presents and just like being sweet. I mean, like, I remember like what I made for breakfast, you know, Scarlett's first Christmas. And I can remember what I made for breakfast her second, you know, like cinnamon rolls, right? And like different variations. And so that's the kind of stuff that I remember and that I enjoy remembering. You know what I mean? Like I'll also never forget the first time that I made green bean casserole from scratch. And I mean, like I fried the onions and did the whole shebang by myself. And I'm not even gonna fucking lie to you. Yes, like the cream of mushroom situation from scratch, like hands down, light years better. But like, I really wish that it would have been canned green beans. Okay. And I have zero shame. Don't come for me with that. Okay. Like I really I was like, oh, it's fresh and it's going to be, and I was like, man, I really wish that these beans came from a can because it would have been that much better. Also there was like a Thanksgiving celebration that was like, I hate to say it. I mean, I think I was 21. No, I wasn't. I think I was like 23. And it was like the most hungover I have ever been in my entire life was on a Thanksgiving. I will never forget that day, and I would never wish that day on anybody ever again. No, thank you, and Godspeed to my past self, because some of those choices that I made were not very great ones, and I will never forget that Thanksgiving for that very reason. And those of you that imbibed the night before, right, y'all, that's like a thing in the service industry, right? Like people do that. That's a no from me. So I am really grateful to be in my old lady ways because no thank you. I like to eat. Okay, I enjoy a holiday meal, and there was nothing about any sort of enjoyment that I was doing that year. And so that was memorable and not in a great way. The end. Anywho, I'm excited. I am really, I have no idea. Like, we're going to go see my pops up in upstate New York, for Thanksgiving this year. I have no idea what we're doing for Christmas, and I don't care because I am so excited to just like do my own stuff and create my own memories with these babies, and like with, you know, friends and other family and whatever. I'm excited. So let's circle back to memorable meals. Okay. let's circle back to that. And also, please do. I enjoyed having that conversation with my friend. And I want to hear about memorable meals that you had too. And then this last was, not a question, but, Lynn wrote, hi, Ava. As you know, we also don't celebrate Thanksgiving anymore other than using it as an opportunity to be with our friends and family. This year we are doing surf and turf as well. And I'm making pumpkin risotto, because of a previous, episode that I did about things that I want to make in the fall. So, thank you for sharing this with me. Also, I love a surf and turf moment. I really do. I mean, that's like one of my most favorite things to do just for Christmas in general, because I feel like you can do, like, surf and turf is just such an umbrella, right? Like, you can do 2 million things with it. Like, I've done scallops and, like, just a reverse seared steak. Okay. I mean, like, you don't have to be like crazy town with it. I love a surf and turf moment. And also, I'm also going to make pumpkin risotto next week. And I'm so excited about that. I actually still don't know what I'm going to be making, with my pops. And I am assuming that one of my sisters is going to be coming, to have dinner with us as well. And I don't know what we're going to make yet, but thank you for letting me know that. And also, if y'all need, like, I mean, if you eat meat and seafood, surf and turf is like a lovely option for Thanksgiving, especially if you want to do like something small. And it does not have to be bougie. It does not have to be over the top. You can go to Costco and buy crab legs. Also, another thing that we've done in the past is like everybody like bring your own crab. Okay. That's a thing. Like you provide, even if you wanted to do like a prime rib or like nice steaks. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to drop like a shitload of money. It doesn't have to be super bougie in order for it to be enjoyable. Also something fun to do is like a crab boil. And I'm talking like, you know, newspaper on the table. Like, that's also an option. And pretty fucking cheap. I mean, aside from like the crab itself, you're like, here are some potatoes and I don't like some sausage. I love doing that kind of stuff. And also it feels like a little bit more interactive. You know what I'm saying? And so like, keep your options open and keep thinking out of the box. And I'm going to keep encouraging this, because I said what I said about turkey last episode. It's just okay. It's barely okay. It's mediocre at best. I said what I said. Think outside of the box and do things that you can kind of like do. Yeah, like as community. Get your hands in there. Get a little bit messy. Crack crab together, okay? I'll catch up with y'all next week.